As a black man, I have accepted having a harder life for a long time. And I've been sabotaged, and I've accepted being sabotaged for about 6 years, since 2011. And since 2009, I saw it coming because of the content and the nature of my videos. What does it mean for society when someone cannot speak out against psychiatry and secret societies without being sabotaged, or worse? What does it mean? In a society that celebrates the freedom of speech, to be persecuted behind the scenes for being right and expressing it in a righteous manner for the public to consume. The greatest commandment in the Bible is to love the Lord thy God with all of your heart, with all of your mind, with all of your being. And when you love somebody, you try your best to make them happy. You know? You try your best to look out for them. And when you defy the rules in the Bible, you are not looking out for the God of the Bible. I know we live in a time where a lot of people get sick at the thought of the Bible. I've come across atheists and feminists, communists, black militants from the Egyptian kind of perspective, black Hebrew Israelites. I've come across a lot of different groups of people that hate the Bible and see it as Western imperialism and brainwashing in a powerful psychological text. Westernization is a problem. Mainstream white denial is a problem. And all the people who go along with it are part of the problem. Let's face it, these corporations tend to be owned by whites, light-skinned Asians, and Jews. You know, wonderful races. But what we see in society is that they keep the black man down. You know, we live in a white man's world. And they propagate evil and want you to participate in white denial to help maintain their white privilege. And these corporations, I think we all understand, control the government to a certain extent. So being a government shell and a corporate shell, quite often, even more often than not, is the same thing. It's interesting how one party claims to be on the corporation side with tax cuts for the rich, and the other party claims to want to use the government more to regulate the corporations. It's kind of a sick joke, isn't it? It's a dark joke. And we're the ones who suffer. The joke is on us. Now, there are a lot of things I like about, white culture, for example. And we'll start there. I like surfing, I'm not too good at it myself. I like to see white people at the beach having a good time. If we're talking about white people by itself, I like a lot of white beers. There's a lot of good white beers. That's why I went back to drinking, ladies and gentlemen. It's not because I don't like white culture. It's because I do. Even at my own peril. I invented a lot of things that make life a lot more enjoyable. So did the Jews. And so have the Asians, But there seems to be this kind of silent disdain for black people and black culture. And then they made the ghetto culture. It's like that is their culture. It's funny how people with a white ghetto culture, that has been adopted by blacks over the years, the language, the motherfucker, I'm told, comes from poor white people in the South, for example. And it was adopted by blacks, and they altered it a little bit, perhaps, motherfucker with an A or what have you. know, it is, that is not our culture, but yet you see people sticking up for it, right? That is ghetto culture. That is the culture of poverty, hopelessness, and despair as expressed by urban Black or African Americans. Now, within the poor neighborhoods, the impoverished parts of town, you have hope. You have a culture of hope. And that culture, more often than not, is a Christian culture. In the midst of darkness, we have a culture of hope. Quite often, the Black militants will say, you know, we don't have a solution, but them killing Blacks is a problem. Because some of them, very few of them, want to be violent. They actually want violence. Some of them are just told to say that so that corporate America can more readily and easily control political movements. Because if you haven't noticed, corporations through social media, through using celebrities, through commercials, through soap operas even, control trends and set trends. So when you have a political movement that is adverse to the trends that they're trying to set, to the trendsetters' agenda, they get quite upset. But let me just leave you with this final thought. Do you really think it is fair for me to be persecuted my whole life and for all of society to be put in check by corporations? Forget about the effect on me. Of course, it's not fair to me. But do you think it's fair to society? Let us persecute the bravest and the best because they're talking about something that's going to cost very powerful people a lot of money. And that money trickles down. The evil trickles down. The tasks associated with the silent war on Black people trickles down. And if you think there isn't a silent war on Black people, perhaps you would like to explain to me. And don't say because Blacks are inferior, because I will disprove that in no time. Explain to me how, you go to places by South Africa, you have, male adults, right? 27% of them have AIDS. You go to the UK, Black people are 17 times more likely to be diagnosed with a serious mental illness. You go to America in 2015, Blacks were 12% of America. 45% of the AIDS diagnosis. The people are diagnosed with AIDS and own less than 0.5% of the capital. This isn't just economic disparity. There is a serious disparity when it comes to how we treat people, how we address people's problems. And it's more than just the police and the government. There is a culture of ignoring the serious problems that face the Black man. And there's also a culture of drugged up Blacks, of desperate Blacks, playing the race card to make matters worse. And this is a very serious problem we have here with a government that historically puts out disinformation and misdirects people, misleads people, instead of solving problems. This is a serious problem. This is a sad state of the world. And, I think about how it affects society more than myself. I get sad for myself. I'm sad. Recently, I've been sad for myself every day, feeling hopeless. Thinking about myself. And sometimes my family, how it affects them to see me going through all this and to see me suffering and acting weird when I'm drugged and psychiatrists trying to convince my family I'm crazy and the toll that it takes on them. But what I think of first is the effect on society. We are one. Like the Rastas say, I. It can be the Roman numeral, one. One world, one people, oneness. And not the way that a bunch of corporations want it either. I'm not a new age ninny, but we are in this together. We are all part of one thing. And that one thing is God. God created us. And we have that commonality, that spirit inside of all of us. So if we do not put the spirit first and damn near ignore the flesh, especially to make up for all the hedonistic and narcissistic behavior that's been taking place on this planet, we will suffer together. We need to stand together in the true spirit of God, or the madness will continue. And there will be many more nonsensical philosophies that are corporate friendly that bring us down. One more thing, I'm not racist. I'm not trying to put black people above other people. In America, black people have had so much genetic engineering, and there's been eugenics done on them, that it is hard for them just to be made equal with other races as a group. As individuals, sure, there's brilliant black people, great black people. But as a group, it is very hard. You know, and the type of people who are waging this secret war on black people, using institutions, using psychiatry, using law enforcement, using social policies, using chemicals, you know, the water in Flint, ignoring their problems and creating new ones, and trying to make it so that they're the only ones with a viable solution to the problem. So they get rich and they control us more as they bring in the quote-unquote solution. I mean, these people, the types of people that do this stuff, are the types of people who do not want to be exposed. They are the types of people that set black people up to be assassinated, not just to fail. Okay? The type of people on my bumper singling me out because I am not in a group. I don't have a bunch of Nation of Islam guys, you know, mean mugging gang stalkers when they drive by. I don't have a bunch of, you know, Crips. I'm not a gang member. I don't have a bunch of Panthers. When I tried to reach out to the black community, the gang community rather, they turned me down. You know, they know how I feel, but they're not willing to make it harder for themselves to survive. I mean, look at the black militant movement. It went from let us fight to secure our rights by any means necessary to let us fight to survive by any means necessary, even if we must give up our rights and betray our brothers and sisters. Thank you.